皆さん、おはようございます。こんにちは、こんばんは。Wherever you may be. Cover all of our bases there. 今日はですね、また、心の話を続けます。なので、早速行ってみましょう。大丈夫かな？まずはこれを消しとこう。Turn this off and get right into it. Alright, so if you remember correctly, last time. Sorry, a little bit of noise in the background. A Genki morning. But, so we left off with our main character being strangely interested in this older character who we know as Sensei, and we're getting into the point where they're finally going to meet each other. So, 今彼女の家族を待ってますか。なるほど。Okay, so if you remember right, the first time we see Sensei, he's with this foreigner. That's kind of how our main character first saw Sensei and kind of stuck out about it. Hey, he's with this foreigner. Then the next day he came back to go swim in the ocean. There was no foreigner, and he's just going by himself pretty much every day. And so our main character finds that very odd that this man just comes here and swims, almost follows the exact same routine every day, goes out, swims, comes back. So, all right, now we have, this is the next day. So, let's make sure we have our audio on so we can listen to this paragraph, then we'll kind of read through it, break it down. So, all right, let me know if this audio is working properly. 今行きます。
3私は次の日も同じ時刻に浜へ行って先生の顔を見た。その次の日にもまた同じことを繰り返した。けれども物を言いかける機会も挨拶をする場合も二人の間には起こらなかった。その上先生の態度はむしろ非社交的であった。一定の時刻に超然として来てまた超然と帰っていった。周囲がいくらにぎやかでもそれにはほとんど注意を払う様子が見えなかった。最初一緒に来た西洋人はその後まるで姿を見せなかった。先生はいつでも一人であった。ある時先生が例の通りさっさと海から上がってきていつもの場所に脱ぎ捨てた浴衣を着ようとするとどうしたわけかその浴衣に砂がいっぱいついていた。先生はそれを落とすために後ろ向きになって浴衣を2、3度振るった。すると着物の下に置いてあった眼鏡が板の隙間から下へ落ちた。先生は白がすりの上へへこ帯を締めてから眼鏡のなくなったのに気がついたと見えて急にそこいらを探し始めた。私はすぐ腰掛けの下へ首と手を突っ込んで眼鏡を拾い出した。先生はありがとうと言ってそれを私の手から受け取った。次の日、私は先生の後に続いて海へ飛び込んだ。そうして先生と一緒の方角に泳いでいった。2丁ほど沖へ出ると先生は後ろを振り返って私に話しかけた。広い青い海の表面に浮いているものはその近所に私たち2人より他になかった。そして強い太陽の光が目の届く限り水と山とを照らしていた。私は自由と歓喜に満ちた筋肉を動かして海の中で踊り狂った。先生はまたパタリと手足の運動をやめて仰向けになったまま波の上に寝た。私もその真似をした。青空の色がギラギラと目を射るように強烈な色を私の顔に投げつけた。愉快ですねと私は大きな声を出した。
Okay, sounds like the audio was good. いいですね。So now we finally have our main character talking to Sensei. Finally seeing him, talking to him. And they finally officially meet. So, alright, so we've got 私は次の日も同じ時刻に浜へ行って先生の顔を見た。So, 私は次の日。We got 次 which is next. 次の you connect next 次 with to another noun with no, like the next day or the next noun. Right? So here 私は次の日も同じ時刻に、so, 同じ being the same 同じ時刻 is like a time, like a specific time. So if you're like at the train stations and stuff, they'll use jikoku for like time, or like the time chart that you'll see at the station. That's called a jikoku hyo. So 同じ時刻に浜へ行って、so hama being the beach. There's lots of ways to say the beach. We've got Joshua-san today who's heading to the beach. Hama, you can say the beach, but that's when you say, oh, let's go to the beach, you don't normally say hama ni ikimashou. You kind of say like kaigan or beach. So, but in a book, that's totally fine. Hama e itte sensei no kao o mita. So, the next day I went to the beach at the same time and saw Sensei's face. Sensei no kao o mita. その次の日にもまた同じことを繰り返した。So, the next day also, また again, 同じことを繰り返した。I repeated or did the exact same thing again. また同じことを繰り返した。けれども、however, ものを言いかける機会も、挨拶をする場合も、二人の間には起こらなかった。そう。ものを言いかける。もの being like a thing, right? ものを言いかける。to say a thing to someone. ものを言いかける機会。chance. There was no opportunity for us to speak, for me to say something to him. 挨拶をする場合も by being a situation, 挨拶 being a greeting. 挨拶をする場合も so there was also no situation for us to even greet each other. 二人の間には起こらなかった。So between the two of us. Okay. So, 起こる to occur, to happen. Right? So what did not happen between the two? There was no chance or opportunity for us to say anything to each other, or even situation where we would greet each other. 挨拶をする場合も二人の間に起こらなかった。間、right? Being between two things. So, 二人の間, between the two of us. その上 So, その上 is one of these ways you can say, in addition to that, or furthermore. You can say this in speech too. You say like, this happened. その上. In addition to that, there's also this. Probably a little more formal, but still definitely usable. 先生の態度はむしろ非社交的であった。So, 態度 being your attitude or your manner. So, 先生の態度はむしろ非社交的であった。So here we've got 社交的 and 非社交的. So this first kanji here, this hi, this means not or un. Right? So 社交的 by itself, maybe we can add this to the vocab for today. 社交的. Oh, alright. 社交的 being sociable or social, right? So a social person. You can say 社交的ですね. And this is a non-adjective. You can say sociable or social. Then we have 非社交的. Whenever you see this hi in front of another kanji, it means not that thing. So 非社交的 would be unsociable or antisocial, maybe even, right? Sorry, it's taking me a while to get this down. Unsociable or antisocial. 非社交的. So there was no chance for me to talk to him, and he kind of was a little bit and seemed a little antisocial, unsociable. So our main character is like, I don't have the chance to talk to him yet. Right? 一定の時刻に超然としてきて、また超然と帰っていった. We got 超然 here. 超然 is kind of like aimlessly, or here we have with a detached air. So 一定 being a specific, or a certain time. 一定の時刻に超然としてきて. But he came or arrived at a very specific time. また超然と帰っていった. So he just kind of seemed like he was wandering around detached. He showed up at a specific time and then went home. That's it. So 周囲がいくら賑やかでも、それにはほとんど注意を払う様子が見えなかった. So 周囲 being the surroundings. 周囲がいくら賑やかでも、賑やか is being a pretty common early word that you learn in Japanese. Kind of loud, bustling, busy. Right? So not busy as in a person being busy, but a city being busy, full of people, very lively. Right? So 周囲がいくら賑やかでも is demo saying regardless of how busy or bustling the crowds were, それにはほとんど注意を払う様子が見えなかった. So 様子 being like appearance, the way things looked. Right? So it looked like Sensei did not 注意を払う. So 注意 is like to notice or attention. Sorry, 注意 is notice or attention. 注意を払う. To pay notice of something is how you say that in Japanese. In English, we say take notice. In Japanese, they'll say pay notice. So, 注意を払う様子が見えなかった. Looks like Sensei was unaffected no matter how bustling the crowds were around him. He seemed very detached. Showed up at the time, went for a swim, just kind of went home. Right? Was not affected by anything around him. So you could not see any of that. 見えなかった. We got 最初一緒に来た西洋人は So 西洋人 being a Westerner, a foreign person, particularly from the West. Right? 最初一緒に来た西洋人. This is all describing that kind of Westerner that we ran into. So the Westerner that came with Sensei the first time. Right? 最初一緒に来た西洋人は、その後, so after this, まるで姿を見せなかった. Did not show up at all. So 姿を見せる means to show up. Literally, 姿を見せる is like to show your self, right? Your appearance. Show yourself. So that Westerner never showed up again. 先生はいつでも一人であった. So Sensei was always いつでも, no matter what time it was or when it was, 一人であった. 一人です. Right? So something interesting to know if you're learning Japanese and you're getting into reading stuff. である is exactly the same thing as です. So if you see である, it literally means the exact same thing as です. And the negative forms and things like that are slightly different than what you're used to. So である would be です. であった would be でした or だった. Okay. Then ではない or じゃない. But in written form, a lot of times in books, it will be ではない or denai. And denakatta or dewanakatta. So sensei wa itsu demo hitori de atta. Always alone. Okay, then we've got aru toki. So on a certain time, there was one time, a certain occasion. Sorry. Got 今日は賑やかですね. Oh, actually, I think my window's open. I'll have to close that later. So, on a certain occasion, or a certain day, or a certain time, 先生が例の通り. Yep, 例の通り. As always, ささっと海から上がってきて. So looking at the kanji, you might be able to tell what this one is. So, 例の通り, as always, 海から上がってくる. So, rose up, came up out of the ocean. And sasatto is like right away. So, very quickly. ささっと海から上がってきて、いつもの場所に脱ぎ捨てた浴衣を着ようとすると、Okay, so let's break that down. いつもの場所. So, the same place as always. に脱ぎ捨てた浴衣. So, yukata is a type of Japanese clothes. Let's see. Kind of similar to, you know, what we might think is a kimono, but a kimono and a yukata are very different. Yukata is more light, not as heavy, but they're very comfortable actually. If you go to like a ryokan, you can wear these at the ryokan. A lot of times when you go to like the bathhouse and things like that, they'll have these that you can borrow and wear afterwards. Very comfortable to wear. So. Here we have Sensei after swimming, he wears a yukata, right? So, いつもの場所に脱ぎ捨てたyukata. So the yukata that he took off and tossed aside at the same place. を着ようとすると, as he tried to put on this yukata that he had taken off and tossed aside, the same place. どうしたわけか, for some reason. So, there's lots of words in Japanese that mean reason. There's ryu, wake, what are some other ones? Gei. They all kind of have their own different uses. There's actually a video by Kaname Naito if you want to check that out, talking about some of the differences. But どうしたわけか. So for some reason or other, for whatever reason, その浴衣に砂がいっぱいついていた. Suna, sand. 砂がいっぱいつく. つく being to cling or stick to. So there was a lot of sand in that kimono. So 先生はそれを落とすために. When we have ために, this means in order to do something or for something on behalf of something. So here, それを落とすために, in order to remove, literally to drop it off, get it off. それを落とすために, in order to get rid of the sand. 後ろ向きになって, 後ろ being back or behind. But when we put it together with muki, muki is like facing. 後ろ向きになる is to turn around, face backwards. 後ろ向きになって、浴衣を2、3度振った. So 2、3度, 2 or 3 times, a few times. So you'd say 一度 if you've heard もう一度. This is that same counter for times. 1度、2度、3度. So, shook his yukata 2 or 3 times. Furu being to shake something. すると, then, 着物の下に置いてあったメガネ. So once again, we have all of this describing this noun here, megane. being glasses. 着物の下に置いてあったメガネ. So the glasses that had been placed or put underneath 下 the kimono. Okay, so underneath the kimono, the glasses that had been placed underneath the kimono が板の隙間から下へ落ちた. 落ちる to fall down. 落ちた past tense. So these glasses that have been put underneath the kimono have fallen down 下へ落ちた from the gap 隙間 or the space between the boards or planks. So 板の隙間から下へ落ちた. So you can kind of imagine like a bench, you know, those benches that are made of like, I don't know, like 2x4s or something, just like 2 or 3 boards, and then there's gaps in between them. We've got a gap in between these boards on the bench, and glasses fell between those, right? Ita no skima, so the gaps between the boards. Yep. Kara shita e ochita. Sensei wa, this is one I do not know. Okay. Shirogasuri. Okay. So a white base cloth with black or indigo splash patterns. There you go. There's your vocab for the day. Shirogasuri. I don't know if I'll add that one to my flashcards today. But hey, why not? Something I don't know. Shirogasuri. I'm going to look that up later. So, 先生は白がすりの上へへこ帯を締めてから Obi, if you know anything about kimono or yukata, obi is basically like the belt that you'll put around, right? So if we just say yukata obi, so these are the obi right here. It's not like it's like a belt, but you know, it's one you tie yourself. There's an English word for this, I'm sure, but this isn't obi. So if you ever wear a yukata or kimono, you'll have an obi. I guess they are called belts because in what do you call it? In martial arts, they still call these obi, and in English they call them belts. So I guess you can call them belts. So, anyways, so 先生は白がすりの上へへこ帯 so particular one around the waist へこ帯を締めてから after he had tightened or fastened this 帯メガネのなくなったのに気がついたと見えて when we have と見える this is like appears as such. So 見える means visible or can see. When you have something と見える it looks as if though, right? So then that と見える is in the te form. So メガネのなくなったのに気がつく so 気がついた or 気がつく is to notice something, to become aware of something. So it looked as though Sensei had realized or noticed that his megane, his glasses, had become or missing, were missing. Nakunatta, to disappear. Right? It looked like he noticed that these glasses had gone missing. 急にそこいらを探し始めた. So and he suddenly or immediately started searching that area. そこいらを探し始めた. So remember, if we have a verb in the must stem with 始める, that is to begin to doing something. You could say 食べ始めた. I began to eat. 食べ始めました. Or 寝始めた. Began sleeping. Or 話し始めた. Sorry. 話し始めた. Began to talk. Sagashi hajimeta. Sagasu to search, so began looking around that area for his glasses. Watakushi wa sugu koshikake no shita e kubi to te o tsukonde. Koshikake. So koshi is your kind of like your hip area, your lower back. Koshikake is somewhere where you put your back or your lower back. A bench. Koshikake. Koshikake no shita e. So below the bench. Kubi to te o tsukonde. So to plunge or thrust. Tsukomu. Your kubi, which is your neck or your head. And te. So he stuck his neck or his head and his hands underneath the bench and megane o hiroidashita. So retrieved, hiroidasu, take out, pick up. Sensei wa arigatou to itte. So this is to itteimasu or to iimasu, right? Sensei said, to you. Sensei said, arigatou to itte, それを私の手から受け取った. So he took that thing, それ being the glasses, それを私の手から受け取った. 受け取る. So 受ける is to receive, 取る is to take. So when someone offers you something and you take it, you can 受け取る. 受け取った. Okay. Then we have the next day, 次の日. 私は先生の Is this 後ろ or 後? This one's 後. Okay. 先生の後に続いて海へ飛び込んだ. So on the next day, I followed after 先生. 先生の後に続いて. So 続く is like you continue or to follow. So I followed after 先生. 海へ飛び込んだ. 飛び込む is to completely jump into something. Okay. So this komu, so tobu is literally to jump. This komu here, we see it a lot after a lot of verbs. It's like when you completely do something. Right? So tobikomu is like, think about jumping into a pool, and once you jump, there's no going back. You're just going to fall into it. Right? So tobikomu. Completely put yourself into the ocean. 海へ飛び込んだ. そうして先生と一緒の方角に泳いでいった. So I did this. Then 先生と一緒の方角. 方角, not 角. This does take 連絡 means the second kanji. We add the 10-10 on the first hiragana. So 一緒の方角に泳いでいった. We got 泳ぐ in the te form. 泳いでいった. So I swam and went. Swam out. So I jumped into the ocean and started following Sensei in the same direction. Then we've got 2丁ほど. So 丁 is an older Japanese measurement. Looks like 2丁 is about 220 meters or 240 yards. So you can think of a cho as about 100 meters, right? Or I guess 110 to be exact. But 2丁ほど. So after we swam out about 200 meters. ほど. About that much. 沖へ出ると. Oki being the open sea. 沖へ出ると. After we swam out about 220 meters to the open sea, 先生は後ろを振り返って、so, 後ろ being right, back or behind. So 後ろ振り返る to turn around. So he turned back around. 私に話しかけた. So 話しかける like you begin talking to someone to start a conversation. Kakeru is one of those words you will run into all over the place, and it can mean all sorts of things. But here it's kind of like to start a conversation with, to call out to someone. Hey, you. So Sensei turned around and started talking to me. 広い青い海の表面に浮いているものは So, mono being things, right? So the things that were floating, uku, the te form of uku, 浮いている on the surface, 表面 of the ocean that was 黄色い fast and bluish greenish, depending on what it is, right? So, what was it that was floating on the surface of this wide and blue ocean? See? その近所に私ら二人より他になかった。Okay, this is some pretty complex grammar stuff we got going here. But, so その近所に in that area, we've got the kanji for 近い, right? 近 and 所, ところ, place of this area, the 近所に私ら, or I guess 私ら here. You could say 私ら, right? I think so. So, all that was floating in this, or on the surface of the ocean here, was 私ら二人, us two, より他になかった. So, other than the two of us, there was 他に nothing, なかった. 他に being apart from, besides, outside of. So outside of us, in this area, there was nothing else on the surface of the ocean. そうして強い太陽の光が So, 強い太陽の光 the light of the strong, intense sun 目の届く限り水と山とを照らしていた So the light, the strong light of the sun 照らす shined on, illuminated the water 水と山 and the mountains as far as the eye could see. 目の届く限り So, 限り being like a limit. 届く being arrives. So, to the limit that your eyes can arrive to, or as far as your eyes can see. 目の届く限り水と山とを照らしていた. So the strong, bright sun lighting up the water and the ocean as far as the eyes could see. Or, sorry, the ocean and the mountains, right? The water and the mountains. 私は自由と歓喜に満ちた. Is this 筋肉? Yep, okay. 私は自由と歓喜に満ちた筋肉を動かして. Got a verb in the te form. When you have really long sentences, try to find breaks where there's a te form. Because that can be, okay, you do this, then this, then this. So, we have 動かす in the te form here. 動かして. So I was moving or exercising my muscles. 筋肉, which were filled with 満ちる, 満ちた. Freedom, 自由と歓喜, delight. So, very wordy sentence. A lot of these are. But I was exercising my muscles that full of freedom and delight. And 海の中で踊り狂った. 踊り狂った. So 踊る by itself is kind of like to dance, right? But here it's just kind of like move around and go crazy, right? 踊り狂った. 先生はまたパタリと Sensei also suddenly 手足の運動をやめて仰向けになったまま Okay, let's take a break. So, パタリと suddenly 手足の運動をやめて So, やめる to stop. Stopped moving his legs and his arms. 手足の運動をやめて、仰向けになったまま。仰向け is facing upwards. So 仰向けになる to become face up. Turn face up. So stop moving his arms and legs. Faced upward. Mama. So this is a state. In the state of facing upwards. 波の上に寝た. So this neru is that neru, to sleep or to lay back. Right? Kind of like how when we say I'm going to bed, it means I'm going to sleep. Not necessarily just the movement of going to bed. Neru literally means to like lie down. So it doesn't necessarily mean to sleep. So here it's not being used. He actually slept, but he laid down on the waves. Right? 波の上に寝た。私もその真似をした。真似。So 真似 is like copied someone. So my daughters, you might hear them in the background complaining about this because their favorite thing is to copy each other. And it bothers the crap out of each other. They both hate it, but they both like copying each other. So they'll say, 真似をしないで。真似をしないで。Don't copy me. 真似をしないでください. Don't copy me. So here, did the same thing that Sensei did. 私もその真似をした。青空の色が So the color of the blue sky. ギラギラと目をいるように。ギラギラ being dazzlingly. Wow, beautiful. Dazzlingly. 目をいるように. So when we have a ように, this is as if striking one's eyes. 痛烈な色を So 痛烈 being an intense, overwhelming 色を私の顔に投げつけた. So the color of the blue sky cast an outstanding color to my face. 私の顔に投げつけた。愉快ですね。と私は大きな声を出した。So 愉快 is like, this is wonderful. Feels so good. This is kind of a flowery word, very refined. 愉快ですね. You'd probably just say 気持ちいいですね if you wanted to, that's probably the more colloquial way to say this. 気持ちいいですね. But here we have 愉快ですね。と私は大きな声を出した。So, 大き is weird in that there is a na adjective version of 大き and an e adjective version of 大き. So, 大きな声 or 大きい声. Both can technically be used. But here we have the na version. 大きな声を出した. So, 出す to throw something out, to emit. 声を出す is to say something, right? Or to let out your voice. So I said, 愉快ですね. Feels great, doesn't it? This is wonderful, invigorating. Okay. All right, let's see if we can sneak in one more section. So we've got... Okay, this one's not super long. I think it's shorter than the one we just did. So, finally met Sensei, right? They're talking. Now we have what happens after this. じゃあ、聞きましょう. Let's go ahead and listen. Zoom in just a little bit more. Okay. 行きます。
しばらくして海の中で起き上がるように姿勢を改めた先生は、もう帰りませんかと言って私を促した。比較的強い体質を持った私は、もっと海の中で遊んでいたかった。しかし先生から誘われたとき、私はすぐ、帰りましょうと快く答えた。そうして二人でまた元の道を 浜辺へ引き返した。私はこれから先生と懇意になった。しかし先生がどこにいるかはまだ知らなかった。それから中2日置いてちょうど3日目の午後だったと思う。先生と掛け茶屋で出会った時、先生は突然私に向かって「君はまだだいぶ長くここにいるつもりですか?」と聞いた。考えのない私はこういう問いに答えるだけの用意を頭の中に蓄えていなかった。それで「どうだかわかりません」と答えた。しかしニヤニヤ笑っている先生の顔を見たとき、私は急に決まりが悪くなった。先生はと聞き返さずにはいられなかった。これが私の口を出た先生という言葉の始まりである。私はその晩、先生の宿を訪ねた。宿といっても普通の旅館と違って、広い寺の境内にある別荘のような建物であった。そこに住んでいる人の先生の家族でないことも分かった。私が先生先生と呼びかけるので、先生は苦笑いをした。私はそれが年長者に対する私の口癖だと言って弁解した。私はこの間の西洋人のことを聞いてみた。先生は彼の風変わりのところや、もう鎌倉にいないことや、いろいろな話をした末、日本人にさえあまり付き合いを持たないのに、そういう外国人と近づきになったのは不思議だと言ったりした。私は最後に先生に向かって、どこかで先生を見たように思うけれども、どうしても思い出せないと言った。若い私は、その時暗に相手も私と同じような感じを持っていはしまいかと疑った。そうして腹の中で先生の返事を予期してかかった。ところが先生はしばらく沈吟した後で、どうも君の顔には見覚えがありませんね。人違いじゃないですかと言ったので、私は変に一種の失望を感じた。
OK ですね。Okay. So, now we have しばらくして after a while. 海の中で起き上がるように姿勢を改めた先生は Once again, all of this is describing Sensei. Then have the what is the topic. So Sensei, who had corrected his position, kind of gotten up. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. Corrected his position to get up in the ocean. 海の中で起き上がるように姿勢を改めた先生は So, Sensei, who had gotten up in the ocean, もう帰りませんかと言って、We have ませんか polite invitation. Shall we go home already? Shall we head back? もう帰りませんかと言って、私を促した。So, proposed or prompted. And, hey, why don't we go back? Made a proposal, right? 促す。比較的強い体質を持った私は So all of this is describing 私 me or I who 持つ who had 持った比較的強い体質 So 比較的 is relatively strong physical constitution So me who is pretty strong relatively strong right もっと海の中で遊んでいたかった。遊ぶ in the tail form 遊んでいる。遊んでいる。Be in the state of playing. We put that in the tie form to say you want to. 遊んでいたかった。I wanted to be in that state of playing longer in the ocean. Right. もっと海の中で遊んでいたかった。 You can kind of see how all these grammars come together to mean I wanted to stay in the ocean for longer. I wanted to play longer, be in that state of playing. しかし, however, 先生から誘われたとき, when I was invited or asked to go back by 先生, 先生から誘われたとき, 私はすぐ、入りましょう。と心よく答えた。So, すぐ being right away. 私はすぐ、入りましょう。心よく is willingly. Right. Willingly replied, 入りましょう。Okay, yes, let's go home. Let's go back. そうして二人でまた元の道を浜辺へ引き返した。So, then, the two of us, again, 引き返す to follow back, to go back, to the beach 浜辺, taking the original, the previous path. So, the same way they came, they headed back to the beach. 私はこれから先生と懇意になった。So, 懇意 to become someone's friend. 懇意になる. So, I wouldn't say this one's used super commonly. I believe I've run into it before, but nowadays in casual speech, you just say 友達になった. Right? Here we have 懇意になった. We became friends. 先生と懇意になった。しかし、先生がどこにいるかはまだ知らなかった。But I did not know where Sensei was. Still, right? まだ知らなかった。Still did not know where Sensei was. I think this is kind of the where he's from or where he lived, right? Okay, then we've got それから中2日置いてちょうど3日目の午後だったと思う。From this time, this day that we're talking about, I believe it was afternoon on the third day. 2 days from what we were talking about on the third day, right? 中2日置いてちょうど3日目の午後だったと思う。I think this happened on the afternoon of the third day. 先生と掛け茶屋で出会ったとき when I met Sensei at a beachside tea hut, 掛け茶屋。先生は突然私に向かって突然 This is a great word to know. I'm going to add this to the vocab. So 突然 is like all of a sudden. 突然 Suddenly or all of a sudden. 突然 Anytime something happens like out of the blue, out of nowhere, suddenly, you can use 突然. All of a sudden. Okay, let's see. That should update on the... Yep, good. Okay, じゃあ all of a sudden, 突然私に向かって turned towards me 向かって、君はまだだいぶ長くここにいるつもりですか？つもり intention. So do you intend to ここにいる to stay here, to be here for quite a while? だいぶ長く 長い in the adverb form 長く and then だいぶ for a while. So, do you still plan on being here for a while? と聞いた 聞く in the past tense 聞いた asked if I was going to stay here for quite a while. 考えのない私 考え being a thought or an idea. So me who had no idea whether I was going to stay for very long or not. はこういう問いに to this question or inquiry に答えるだけの用意を I had not prepared anything to be able to answer this question. こういう問いに答えるだけの用意を頭の中に蓄えていなかった。So, very interesting way of saying this. 蓄える to store up. So, 答えるだけの用意を頭の中に蓄える to have an answer to this question, basically, in your mind. Right? So I did not have an answer to this question in my head. それで、どうだかわかりません。と答えた。So, I answered, 答える、答えた。どうだかわかりません。I really don't know. I'm not sure whether or not I will stay for very long or not. しかし、ニヤニヤ笑っている先生の顔を見たとき、we got Toki here, the time or when I saw, 見た、先生の顔, sensei's face, that was ニヤニヤ笑っている. So ニヤニヤ is like one of those onomatopoeia words. So ニヤニヤ is just a way that you smile. ニヤニヤ grinning. ニヤニヤ笑っている先生の顔を見たとき When I saw Sensei who was smiling such, 私は急に決まりが悪くなった。I felt embarrassed. 決まりが悪くなる。So, yeah. 決まりが悪くなる。was embarrassed for responding in such a way. 先生は What about you, 先生と引き返さずにはいられなかった。So here when you have a ずにいられない like you could not exist without asking. So I could not help but to respond or ask. 先生は couldn't help but ask. What about you? What about 先生これが私の口を出た先生という言葉の始まりである。So, this 始まり So this is the start of the word 言葉 of sensei, which came out of my mouth. 口を出た sensei. So this was the first time, or this was when I started calling him sensei. So he randomly said, Sensei wa? What about you, sensei? 私はその晩、先生の宿を訪ねた。So, 宿 being somewhere where you stay. There's also the kanji for Shinjuku, the second Shinjuku, second character for Shinjuku. So Shinjuku is like the new lodgings. Interesting way of thinking about it. That's what Shinjuku means. So that evening, I visited 訪ねる、訪ねた where Sensei was staying. Sensei no yado. Yado といっても well, you may say it's a lodgings, but even if you called it a lodging or a place to stay, 普通の旅館と違って、違う being different, so it was different from your 普通の旅館, a different 旅館 or Japanese inn. 広い寺の境内 Alright, I need to make that longer. 境内広い寺の境内にある別荘のような建物であった。So it was a 建物 building like のような別荘 vacation house that existed or was at にある on the grounds of a wide or big spacious temple. 広い寺の境内にある別荘のような建物であった。ここに住んでいる人の先生の家族でないことも分かった。 So, そこに住んでいる人。So, the people who live there の先生の家族でないことも分かった。So, 分かった being I knew or understood that the people who stayed there were not でない or ではない or じゃない先生の家族 were not Sensei's family. 私が先生先生と呼びかけるので、先生は苦笑いをした。So, because I kept saying or calling out, Sensei, Sensei, because I always called him Sensei. 先生は苦笑い. So, had a forced laugh. Kind of thought it was funny, but it was kind of like, heh heh heh. 苦笑いをした。私がそれが年長者に対する私の口癖だと言って弁解した。弁解する to rationalize something. So I came up with an excuse in that by saying だと言って it was my manner of speaking. Now 口癖 is kind of like a bad habit that you have, but it's in your speech. So if you always say or some people might call that a 口癖. Or as a matter of fact, or actually, those kind of things you might say a lot, call that a 口癖. So and it's normally like, it's probably not a good thing. But, so that was my manner of speaking towards に対する年長者, someone who is older. So I told Sensei, well, that's just what I say to older people who are people who are older than me. I call them Sensei. That's what I always do. So, 私はこの間の西洋人のことを聞いてみた. So, てみる here. I tried something out. I asked about のことを asked about something. The thing of the 西洋人, the Westerner, the other day. この間の西洋人のことを聞いてみた。先生は彼の風変わりのところや、もう鎌倉にいないことや、So we got Yaz here saying these are the various things, in addition to some others. いろいろな話をした末。After saying various things, such as the fact that he was an eccentric person, this foreigner, right, this Westerner. 彼の風変わりのところや、もう鎌倉にいないこと。That no longer was in Kamakura. That yeah, he's kind of a weird foreigner and he's no longer in Kamakura. もう鎌倉にいないこと。日本人にさえあんまり交際を持たないのに、そういう外国人と近づきになったのは不思議だと言ったりした。So, alright, we've got a whole lot here. So, 日本人にさえあんまり交際を持たないのに、so, のに This のに means even though or although. Although I don't normally associate even with other Japanese people. His sai is like even with. So he's not very warm and friendly even with Japanese people. Even though he's not normally friendly with the Japanese people. そういう外国人と近づきになったのは不思議だと言ったりした。So the fact that he became friends or made acquaintances with a 外国人, such a foreigner, 不思議だ. Very odd, curious. 不思議だと言ったりした. This is the tarisuru. So he said something like this, right? All right, let's add fushigi. This is a very common word as well. Anytime someone says something unexpected or something that can kind of take you by surprise, you can be fushigi. This is a non-adjective. So if you really like miso ramen, but you absolutely hate tonkotsu ramen or something, someone might find that very odd. They say, fushigi. You like ramen, but you don't like tonkotsu, but you absolutely love miso ramen or something, right? So, all right, what is the translation they had here for fushigi? Odd or curious? Okay. They had odd, let's add curious. はい。不思議ですね。Very odd. 私は最後に先生に向かって、so once again, 向かう to face or to say something towards 先生。In the end, 最後に先生に向かって、どこかで先生を見たように思うけれども、what is 思う? I think that I have seen you somewhere. どこかで先生を見たように思うけれども、I think I've seen you somewhere. But is that けれども、どうしても思い出せないと言った。どうしても is no matter what. So this is very commonly used with negative sentences. No matter what, I can't do this. 思い出せる. I cannot think of where I might know you. Right? I feel like I've seen you somewhere before, but I can't say where. Not recall where. と言った. I said. と言いました。と言っていました。若い私はその時 So me, who was very 若い young, at the time, 暗に相手も私と同じような感じを持っていはしまいかと疑った。Okay, this is a really complex one here. So, me, who is very young, implicitly 暗に相手も私と同じような感じを持っていはしまいかと疑った。One by one, these words break it down. So, the word that's going to give us the most information here is often at the end of the sentence. If you get lost in a Japanese sentence, look for the verbs and look for the te forms. So, here we've got 疑う. So I suspected that 相手. So 相手 would be the other party. In this case, sensei. So I thought, or I had the suspicion that 相手も sensei also might have 持ってはいしまいか the same 感じ same feeling 同じような感じを持ってはいしまいかと疑った。I suspected, me being young, suspected that sensei might have the same feeling. Also thought that sensei might also think that somewhere we've met each other. そうして腹の中で先生の返事を予期してかかった。So, かかる to start something. And we've got 予期して to kind of anticipate. So, inside of your stomach, literally 腹の中で or inwardly to yourself. To myself, 先生の返事を予期してかかった. So I asked this question expecting or anticipating Sensei's reply. What might Sensei say? ところが However, Sensei はしばらく for a time, 先生賃金した後で 後で we have a past tense after 後 that tells us after doing this thing. So 賃金 thinking things over, pondering for a while. The しばらく is for a while. If you're ever at the train station in Japan, you will hear this しばらく all the time. しばらくお待ちください. Please wait for a little while. Or when a train is late, I will say that. しばらくお待ちください. Please wait for a while. So, after Sensei had thought this over for a while, どうも君の顔には見覚えがありませんね. So, 見覚え, recall, or sense of familiarity. Don't recall seeing your face. 君の顔には見覚えがありませんね. Don't have any recollection of ever seeing your face before. 人違いじゃないですか? So, 違い comes from 違う, right? Different. 人違い would be mistaking someone for someone else. Having a different person. 人違いじゃないですか? と言ったので, so Sensei said this. Therefore, 私は変に一種の失望を感じた. So, 一種の being a certain kind of 失望, disappointment. You lose hope. 失望を感じた. So, I feel like I know you from somewhere. Sensei says, sorry, I don't recognize you at all. You must be mistaken. So I felt kind of disappointment. I was expecting that Sensei would also say, yes, I feel like I know you too. But that was not the case. So good. All right. So yeah, that is another 2 sections. Let's see what this first group of sections. I think we go up to section 9 here, is it? Nope. Okay, way past 9. Section what? 18. Okay. So, but now we have officially met our sensei. We are getting to know him, right? We have this weird relationship though where our main character says, I feel like I know you from somewhere. Sensei says, no, there's no way. You must be mistaken. But they have this weird bond already. So, cool. All right. Unfortunately, I do not have time to practice some kanji today. But we will try to get into that next time. So, 今日はありがとうございました. Thanks for joining me. Those of you who don't know, every Thursday night, at least American time, we play games. Recently we've been playing Phasmophobia. There is a new update out, so tomorrow evening we will be playing Phasmophobia. So if you want to get some Japanese listening or speaking practice in, that's a great place to do it. We love helping people learn Japanese. Even if you're just getting started, we can teach you some phrases. Kind of make it fun. So, yeah, that'll be tomorrow night, Thursday evening in American time. So, it should be on the schedule. So if you follow my YouTube page, you should be able to see it and figure out what time that'll be in your time zone. So, ありがとうございます。ジョシュアさん、ありがとうございます。Thanks for dropping by. 運転気をつけてください。Please drive safely. ありがとうございます。じゃあまたね